I'm about to show you how to diagnose and fix this 4K Hisense TV that keeps shutting itself off. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Nick. I started Nick's TV Repair about a decade ago, and since then have fixed over 27,000 devices. As you can see, the TV does seem to be working. We do get a proper picture, but in just a moment, it will shut itself off. I'm going to put the remote down. Let's wait a couple seconds. And right there, it just shut itself off. There are two reasons for this to happen. Number one, and most common, the mainboard is at fault. However, we also see number two, the backlights fail and cause the exact same symptoms. These two parts are very different, however, they trigger the exact same symptoms. So it's very important to be able to distinguish which one of these is causing the fault. Now I know that this TV has good LED strips, so in this scenario, we know that the mainboard is at fault. Knowing that, now we can run a few tests to see how does the defective mainboard behave. Something to pay attention to is exactly how long does it take for the TV to shut off. So let's power it on and start a timer at the same time. I've done this test multiple times and it always takes 20 seconds exactly. Let's swap out for a new mainboard that also has the same failure but shuts down much later. If we repeat the test, it shuts down at the 49-second mark every time. Now let's keep the 49 and 20 seconds in mind, and I promise we'll circle back to that. Now let's talk about the backlights. There are some LED testing tools that you can purchase online, such as this one. And often you can confirm with these whether or not the LEDs are good or bad, but not always. And what if you don't have one of these LED testing tools? How are you going to determine whether or not your LEDs are failing and the cause of your TV shutting down? All we need to do is disconnect the backlight from the power supply and turn on the set. Does the TV still shut down or does it stay on? For this test, we do have to remove the back cover. Before we can remove the back cover, we will need to remove the legs. We have 2 screws per leg. Next, let's focus on the right side where the mainboard is located. We have 2 plastic screws here and here. Because these have different threading, we'll put them to this side in a different pile. All of the other screws are machine screws. And now we'll work our way to the left side. And now we should be able to simply lift up and wiggle off the cover. Now let's take a closer look at the power supply board and notice the smaller connector with only 4 wires coming out of it. That's our backlight connector here. Let's disconnect it. Let's go ahead and turn on the TV one more time with our timer. But this time around, since we won't be seeing picture, we're going to be focusing on the standby light at the bottom left side. Now I did just install the mainboard that shuts down after the 20-second mark. Okay, and it went back to solid. Because the standby light became solid at about the 20-second mark, that does confirm that the TV shut itself back off. Now I've already run that test again with the 49-second one, and the same thing happened. So now let's go ahead and run the same exact test with our good working mainboard to see the difference. Okay, we've now hit the 1-minute mark and our standby light is still off, indicating that the TV is on. Now something else we'll notice is if I shine a flashlight on the screen, we'll actually see a picture. So I can see my YouTube app, my Google Play Movies and TVs, we have Prime Video, there's the Netflix app. So to recap, if your TV is shutting down because your backlight is defective, disconnecting the backlight connector from the power supply will allow the TV set to stay on indefinitely. However, if the TV set is still shutting down, that means that your mainboard is defective and will need to be repaired. Now that we've confirmed the mainboard is the fault, let's bring it to our workbench to identify the problem down to the component level. For the mainboard removal, we have a few wired connectors as well as ribbons. For this top one, we're going to put pressure on this little clip and wiggle it out. For the large blue ribbon, we're going to lift this latch up and then we can wiggle out the ribbon. Our speaker connector, same thing, we have a little tab on the top, so we'll push down on it and wiggle it out. Same for the IR sensor here. And for the Bluetooth and Wi-Fi ribbon, we have another latch, so we're going to flip it up and gently wiggle it out. Before we unscrew the mainboard, we're going to remove the shroud. It has 2 clips on the sides, so using my fingernail, I'm going to pop it out and away. Same with the other side. And there we go. Now we can unscrew the mainboard. The most common reason for these mainboards to fail is due to a defective eMMC chip. The eMMC chip holds all of the software for the TV and is located just underneath the heatsink. So let's remove it. We have 2 plastic pogo pins here, so we'll flip the board over, and using our needle nose pliers, we're going to pinch it and push it through. We'll do the same thing to the other one. And there we go. And this is the eMMC chip in question. Now, unfortunately for the eMMC chips, they are very difficult to identify whether or not they are working without first removing them off of the board and installing them in a socket on our programming tool. In order to remove it, we are going to use our rework machine that will desolder the chip from the board. As you saw, this eMMC chip did not have any pins connecting it to the board. This is because it sits on a ball grid array, which you will see in a moment once we remove it from the board. In order to properly remove it without damaging the board or surrounding components, we have to precisely heat up the board from the bottom and the chip from the top until we reach the solder's melting point. Here you can see the ball grid array. It looks like our programmer did not detect any critical faults with the eMMC chip. What this means is the software has gotten corrupted and is the reason for the set shutting down. Even though the eMMC chip is in good health, we are still going to replace it with a brand new one, as it may fail in the near future. Before we can install our new chip, we first need to remove the old solder and clean the area for the replacement eMMC. We are adding a bit of flux to help improve the solder bond between the solder balls on the bottom of the chip and the circuit board. Now we will let the machine solder the chip for us. Now that the eMMC installation is completed, let's go ahead and reinstall the heatsink. Now before I do that, I do want to make sure that the thermal paste is still wet, which it is. If it was very crusty, we would want to replace it. Okay, so we're just gonna line it up, push those through, and that's it. All we need to do now is install it back into the TV and test it out. All right, let's turn it on one more time, and let's see what we get. Okay, TV's turning on, still getting a good picture. And again, this is the one that was turning off after the 20-second mark, so we were barely getting to the Android circles before it would shut down. So right about now is when it was shutting down, and it looks like we're making it through. Okay, we've definitely made it further than what it was originally. Let's let it run for just a few more minutes. All right, and we'll set a timer actually. All right, so we've just hit the 2-minute mark, and I only put the timer about a minute in. So I think it's safe to say that we do have a successful repair. If you found the video helpful or useful, leave us a like, subscribe for more content, and thank you for watching.